So I want to just get started with kind of some general questions, right? Like I think that there may be some misconceptions about what auditing is, or maybe just like lack of knowledge. So I'd love it if you could just kind of start with, what is an auditor? What's the role of an auditor, and how does that differ from different types of examining bodies?
Yeah, no, happy to. So, an auditor in its most base form, right, is someone who kind of conducts assessments of processes and systems, and reviews information to conform to kind of a body of either policies or procedures to make sure that that information conforms to that and is valid,
Hmm.
kind of in association with those policies and procedures. And that's a very kind of basic definition because it applies kind of whole scale to financial statements, which is kind of how the term is usually used, or it could be compliance with a grant in terms of how money is spent in a particular form or fashion. So, that's what an auditor is in its base form. And then, when you start talking about audits or financial statement audits, um, you generally think about a public accountant, right? And so there's as a certified public accountant, and a lot of us have heard that term before, we're a self-regulated body, which is kind of governed by the AICPA, which is the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. And as a self-regulated body, we, kind of dictate, all of those key cornerstones of why an audit is right: independence, ethics, integrity, and making sure that those things are performed correctly.
Okay, so I'd love to know, as the auditor for Codesmith for our CIRR outcome, so the Council on Integrity and Results Reporting, what types of data do auditors look for? What are you reviewing for employment outcomes?
Sure. So, as you know, the employment outcomes reporting is specialized or special in the sense that it doesn't typically relate to financial information. And so, our first step in looking at the data as it relates to this is we first look at what are the rules as prescribed by CIRR. First and foremost, as an auditor, we need to understand what is it that Codesmith or any other coding school is supposed to be reporting on first and foremost.
Right.
And
So
then
the
secondarily,
standards from CIRR. Yeah.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Right. That's paramount so that you can understand, first and foremost, what could go wrong, what are we looking for, as it relates to that information. And then what, needs to be validated in the course of making sure that Codesmith meets those standards. So, once we've done that and kind of developed our game plan, the next thing we look at is the detailed compilation of all of the data as it relates to CIRR, which primarily involves, the school reaching out to all of its, past students and confirming, their employment status, and the amount of time in which, their status changed, over a 90 or 180-day period to validate, some key pieces of information. A, are they employed? B, what was their salary inside of a certain range? And naturally the school obtaining some validation of that information, be it from a confirmation from them directly or some other validation of that
Got it.
information. So that's
So like an
that's what
email or, something written, something that you had that's tangible that you're able to be able to see it.
that's correct. That's
Got
correct.
it. Okay.
Auditors love this term called evidence, and so that's exactly what you described.
Got to have the evidence. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
And then, so how do you ensure that that data is accurate and reliable? So we send it to you, but how do you make sure and how do you confirm that what we're
Right.
sending you is real and not something that we've just said, hey, here's our outcomes.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And so, our primary procedure and step is we independently test the information. And so, there may be some people looking at this after they've kind of been subject to an audit, but we reach out to them directly, independently, and ask them to confirm some key piece of information so that goes from us to them and they respond back to us. And so that is the best evidence we can obtain because we've had that direct communication for them to validate, here's what is being reported. Is this correct? Or is there something that may be different in that course? Now, there differences arise from time to time, maybe depending upon the amount of time, in which we reach out to them, they've got an increase. Well, that's an explainable difference, and we can kind of go through, there's steps to follow after that. But our primary step is to confirm independently with the former student. And then secondarily, there's publicly available information. In this day and age, LinkedIn is a thing that, is almost as gospel as anything else. And so we use that to kind of help us validate and verify as much as we possibly can.
Can you walk us through the auditing process for employment outcomes data? Like, how does it all work along, like just step by step?
First and foremost, we confirm the CIRR policies and procedures to make sure that those haven't changed from the previous cohort's report. Then once we've obtained, the full list of data and it in detail and in its summarized form that's, presented to CIRR for posting publicly, we'll then, reperform the determination of that data. So we'll take all the data and basically recreate it ourselves to ensure that those two things match up. That's step one. And then secondarily, we'll make generally a very large selection of former students across those different classifications within the summary reporting, and then we'll send out those confirmations to them. And unfortunately, we will have to hit them, 1, 2, 3 times and be a little bit of a pest, but it's all in the goal of ensuring that what the company is posting out there publicly, that people very well may be relying upon, right, as they make choices as opposed to the school, that it's valid, accurate, and reasonable for them to use this information to make any decisions that they may make. In the event there's some differences, we'll follow up first with the person we confirmed with to ask them for any clarification or understanding. And then we'll have a discussion with the company about the differences to say, hey, here's what they reported, here's what you had, let's understand the why first. Really understand the why there's a difference first and foremost, because it may be indicative of an issue in the process, right? Maybe we need to change how you guys are asking for the information, or maybe there was a typo. These things do happen from time to time. And so if we come to the conclusion that that's not a widespread event, at the end of all that, we issue a report that basically says that the information that's contained within the CIRR report as posted is accurate, reasonable. You can rely upon it based on the procedure that we performed. And we provide that on our letterhead to the company to post along with their report that is posted on the CIRR website as well.
You've worked with us for a while. How do auditors maintain independence and objectivity when auditing employment outcomes data?
As we're self-regulated and we kind of hold our profession in high regard, independence and integrity are paramount in kind of the profession from that perspective. And so naturally, there are standards and guidelines that prescribe what we're able to do as it relates to ourselves and Codesmith, so that, both in fact and in appearance, we are independent of the company.
And then finally, why is the work of auditing employment outcomes from coding schools like Codesmith so important, and how does it contribute to the overall credibility and transparency of those organizations?
At the end of the day, it's paramount, because if you think about the auditing profession in and of itself, it was established because there's vast amounts of public information that are out there in the world, wherever you look, in terms of people making claims, statements, so on and so forth. And kind of it all started first and foremost with people putting out financial information and people saying, hey, we need somebody to go and validate this information because I'm making financial decisions based on this information that's out there. And a number can be changed simply by a keystroke. Yeah. And so the core behind the accounting profession is to help instill trust in the public markets by providing a resource for people to go and say, these people did their job and we're able to rely upon this information. I think it translates very seamlessly to kind of the information that you guys are putting out about Codesmith or any coding school, because you're getting results of not just the quality of the education, but how the company is viewed by employers out there in the market. And so people are going to make decisions as to which school do I choose, right? And
Right.
so if a story is being spun because that information has been tweaked, then people are going to make life decisions based on bad data. And that can be life-changing, sometimes for the good, most of the time it's for the negative. And so that's why it's so important. That's why it's so paramount that if information is being put out for people to make decisions upon, it's it's a base requirement for that information to be verified by somebody that has nothing to do with it. And the beauty of it is that that's what the accounting profession is here to do.